So this is just a quick unboxing and review of the Kraken 15,000 lumen video lights. So I just got these lights in the mail the other day. I've got two of them. I had Kraken lights before. I was using the 12,000s, and through no fault of Kraken, it was actually my own fault. I flooded one of the lights. The O-ring was, there were some cracks in the O-ring that I missed. Anyways, one of the lights flooded and that light was toast. So Kraken was kind enough to not provide me with new lights under warranty because it was my fault, but they gave me an excellent deal on upgrading my lights from the 12,000s to the 15,000s. It was a deal that I couldn't refuse. So anyways, here we are. I have the 15,000 lumen video lights now. So let's get into this. So the lights come in a nice protective case. As you can see here, Kraken was kind enough also to provide this mat. Didn't order it, didn't ask for it, they just put it in the box, which was a nice touch. It's a nice soft mat, just makes it nice to work with the lights on a table or bench, whatever you might have. So here's the light in the container. We've got some spare O-rings, we've got some instructions, we've got a few stickers, we've got the light itself, we've got a charge cable. Inside here is a ball mount as well. So we have a ball mount. We have a YS mount, and we have the charger. The nice thing about this charger over the charger for the 12s is that this actually has two outlets on it, so you can charge two lights at the same time, as well as another USB device like a phone or something else. In my case, it would be charging my GoPro camera that I'm using with these lights. So that's kind of a cool feature with the charger there. We have the battery. These batteries are a little bit different than the ones I have in the 12s. These ones are like a square battery, a little bit heavier. Charge port is right here, just a USB charge. And then you have these nice covers that can go over the battery. So let's go ahead and pull this light out. They are pretty big light. They're a little bit heavier than what the 12s were. The differences right out of the gates are these ones have 3 buttons on the top, whereas the 12s only have 2. I can show you a 12 here. So here's the 12, just has these 2 buttons here. Another big difference between the two is the 12 has a vacuum port on it, whereas the 15 does no longer have a vacuum port. On the back it does have a tab here that you can attach a lanyard to, so you can have a safety string or safety rope, whatever, attached to your rig so you don't lose the light. Other than that, we've got on the back, we have the ports for the fiber optic cable, so you can do the burst or strobe, which strobes at 18,000, or you can do the remote port. And I have the Kraken remote. I'll show you that in a little bit. It's a super convenient, handy little item for my light tray, and I'm glad I got it. I use it a lot. So I'll show you that actually later on in the review. We'll actually go for a dive, and I'll try and film a bunch of stuff with these lights, show you all the different settings, and just see how they perform underwater on a dive. So here's an actual 12. This one has the battery in it. I've mounted the ball mount so I can put it on my GoPro rig. So to turn these lights on, you just hold the 2 outside buttons, and then we'll get these little flashes of lights here. And once we've held those 2 outside buttons down, we can turn the light on by pressing the middle button once. That'll fire the light up, and then we can cycle through the settings, by using the left button, which goes down, or we can use the right button, which cycles up through the different settings, and there's 5 different settings. And then to turn it off, we just hold those 2 outside buttons down again, and we can turn the light off. So it's pretty simple to operate, and with the remote, with the Kraken remote control mounted to the tray, it's super easy, just one touch with one finger, and all of this is done right from the tray. So I'll show you that in a second. Not sure if you could have seen it on that video the way I was holding the lights, but you can see the vacuum port on the back of the 12 here. Let's take this off. So it has a vacuum port. You screw a little piece on there and you can pump all the air out, and the lights flash a different way, which just lets you know that the light is sealed. But in my case, when I flooded the light, I actually did have it sealed, and it showed me on the flashing indicator that it was sealed. And I got down on a dive. I was about 80 feet or so, filming a big cabezon of all things, and the light started to flicker, and then it just went out completely. And it was probably 15-20 minutes later that I got to the surface, and the light was pretty much toast. It never worked again. But again, not Kraken's fault, my fault. The O-ring was cracked. So for the O-rings on these, I'll just kind of show you what I'm talking about. Only thing that I would say is something that I don't really like about the lights. It's probably going to be hard to see on the video, but the O-rings themselves are really small. Like they're big in diameter, but they're small in width. So they're really tiny, which I feel they're easy to manipulate. They bend around a lot. They're you know, if you have too much grease on them, which I think might have been what my issue was with my light, I just put too much silicone grease. And when you go to turn the cap on, all of that grease starts to move the O-ring, and it was spinning around in the housing. And I think what happened was it just got pinched in there. And when I tightened it up and screwed it down really tight, it just had pinched the O-ring. And I maybe didn't notice it. And after taking the battery out and putting it back on, that O-ring was obviously damaged. And when I went down for my dive, it flooded the light. So just something to keep in mind when you are taking the heads off these lights, changing the batteries out, etc. Just keep these lightly greased and just inspect them frequently and make sure that you don't have any cracks or nicks or the O-rings aren't loose on the housing. I think that's a really important thing to do because that's definitely your safety mechanism to prevent that from happening. And my fault, it was just an oversight. I didn't catch it. And unfortunately the ocean did and flooded the light. So one thing I forgot to mention earlier was when you're putting the mounts on, Kraken does include a little envelope in the case that has some Allen keys and all the necessary bolts and washers to put the different mounts on. In my case, I'm going with the ball mount. I would highly recommend you put some Loctite on the bolt just when you're screwing it into the light head. My other lights and the other pieces like my arms, etc., that I had attached and the handles on my tray, I noticed that they did come loose over time. And you know, even if they're really tight, these things aren't very big, so there's only so much you can tighten them without actually snapping them. And I already did that once on my GoPro tray handles. I tightened it too much and snapped the bolt off within the handle, which was a pain in the ass to get out, but I was able to fix it. And now I just put a lot of Loctite on them, tighten them down nice and snug, and hopefully that'll hold for a lot longer. But just something to keep in mind because I don't want these coming loose and for whatever reason my light falling off or the mount coming loose and falling off and I lose it somewhere, because they are not cheap and it's just an extra precaution that you can take. So I don't know how easy this is to see here, but this is my GoPro rig. It's kind of a ridiculous rig for such a tiny little camera, but you know what? It takes really good video for what it is, and the lights make a huge difference. So I've just mounted them on with the ball mounts. These blue and gray arms are actually float arms. They're aluminum. They're made by a company called Ultramax. I've been very happy with those. They're modular, so you can take them apart. I'm not going to do it right now because it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but you can take these sections out and adjust them for different levels of buoyancy to make your rig neutrally buoyant if you want to. So each one of these sections is worth 1/4 pound of buoyancy. So this float arm is 1 pound buoyancy, and obviously I have 2 of them. I just got these little quick clips that connect the whole rig to my BCD D-rings. I have the fiber optic cables connected through the Kraken remote, which you can see the Kraken remote right here. Let's flip it around and you can see, hopefully you can see. So I just have the Kraken remote attached to the camera rig there, and it's pretty easy to turn the lights on and off. So you just hold this middle button down and the lights will turn on, and then you can cycle through the power settings with the arrows on the side. So it's nice for just controlling the lights without having to mess around with them underwater. If you've got a subject that you're filming or something and you got to spend 30 seconds thinking around with your lights, then they could swim away or whatever may happen. And that was just really frustrating for me. So when I went to the Kraken remote system, it totally changed the game. It made it so much easier to control the lights underwater. The only thing I wish that it didn't have was the fiber optic cables. Can be annoying because they sort of get in the way a little bit, but it'd be nice to have a wireless system. But you know what? That's probably coming one day down the line. Other than that, for this little GoPro, I have this macro lens on the front, which is just a backscatter lens with their Flip 9 lens system, so it can flip on and off, and that takes really good, well, I wouldn't say really good, but decent macro shots for a GoPro. It is what it is. But anyways, lots of these reviews go on and on and on about the lights, and they never actually get them in the water. I'm going to take this rig, let's do a couple of dives. I'll do a couple daytime dives, a couple nighttime dives, see if we can't find some cool subjects to film. I'll cycle through all the different light settings on the remote, and we'll just see what it looks like underwater and what it does for the GoPro footage. So, thanks guys. that's it for the review on the Kraken 15,000s. I'm really happy with the lights. I'm really happy with the way that my footage turns out using them. There's just a few things that I would say about them. Number one, they are fairly heavy. They're on the heavier side. They are a bigger light, so you're going to want to have a camera rig that can definitely handle the weight of these. I don't think you'd be able to run lock line arms with these lights. You're going to have an actual clamp mount system with proper arms in order to support them. Battery life on these was really good. Full power, you're going to get about an hour. I had no problem having lots of light on my dives. One dive was 50 minutes long, and the night dive was 75 minutes long, and I never ran out of power with the lights. I think you get about an hour out of full power, and then if you're using obviously less power, you'll get a lot longer time. I prefer to run them on a lower setting until I find something that I want to film, and then I ramp them up. And the Kraken remote system, if you're going to get these Kraken lights, I highly recommend you get that remote system. It makes life so much easier to be able to control a camera, to be able to control the lights right from the camera tray. Definitely makes life easier. Before, I was having to mess around with the lights and bring them down, and it would take 20-30 seconds just to get the light set up for a shot, and that's a pain in the ass. So definitely Kraken remote system is the way to go. What else would I say about these lights? I've been super happy with the way that Kraken has treated me. Their customer support was awesome. Quick email replies, I never had to wait. They were fast on shipping. When I did flood the light, it was my fault. I understand that, but they definitely came to the party and helped me out with that. And were willing to work with me, so that was awesome too. Whenever you're going to spend big money on gear, any kind of gear, you want to make sure that the company's going to stand behind it, and I believe that Kraken stands behind their product. So that's another good benefit to dealing with them that I was happy about. Nothing else I can really say about these lights. They are a little bit overkill for what I'm doing with the GoPro, but I have a lot of light for any condition, which is great, and the footage just turns out awesome for a GoPro, what it is, so can't argue with that either. And yeah, I'm happy with them, glad I have them, and hopefully these ones I'll get a few years of use out of them, and yeah, thanks guys, hope it was helpful.